and today we're going to talk about and review another film here. This is for Grantheth Ruben. He wanted me to talk about and review Dirty Work, 1998 comedy which stars Norm MacDonald, Artie Lang, and directed by Bob Saget. And the plot real fast, so you have Norm MacDonald in the film plays Mitch, and Artie Lang is Sam, and they start a revenge for hire business to raise $50,000 that Sam's father needs to in order to get a heart transplant. So they're basically revenge specialists for hire, and they kind of do these things to get back at people, so to speak. And that's the plot to the film here. But the film is directed by Bob Saget, which is unfortunate because Norm MacDonald passed away in late 21, and just a few months later, Bob Saget passes away. So your star of the film here and the director, are both gone. And, Chris Farley's in here for a little bit. He's passed away. Don Rickles is in here for a little bit. He's passed away. So it's sad to, a little bit to go back and watch, because with Norm MacDonald, I've always enjoyed his comedy, his humor, his dry wit, I've always enjoyed. And, he didn't really get to lead movies. Like he would appear in certain films with Adam Sandler, like Billy Madison, he was in that. And again, like I said, he would appear in certain comedies, but he never got to lead a film. This is the one film that he got to be the star in, and really, he's the best part of the film. I mean, Artie Lang, I thought they had a good chemistry, but for me, I thought this is more of Norm's movie. He's the standout here. It was a really good showcase for Norm and his humor, Norm MacDonald. Artie, like I said, Artie Lang does a good job here. You also have Jack Warden in the film as the character of Pops. He's fun. Don Rickles, he appears in here for a little bit as like this, theater boss. And, that's the one scene that is really funny when, he has all the ushers, like the ushers lined up, and he's grilling each one. Can't even talk. He's calling Artie Lang a pig and all that stuff. And, Don Rickles, like I said, it's fun to see him in here. Chevy Chase, he appears, here and there throughout the movie. Yeah, he's this like doctor. I kind of wish that he had a bit more to do here. The Chevy Chase, it's cool to see him in there, but it kind of feels like he's not given a lot to do here. Chris Farley, he's this character in the film where his nose is bitten off by a Saigon whore. And that's kind of like the joke here with the film and his character, that, his nose is bitten off by a Saigon whore. And, again, Chris Farley, may he rest in peace. And again, it's just sad when you go back and watch, and, this is one of his last movies here. And I kind of wish, looking back, and like Norm MacDonald, like I said, this is more of his film, and Artie Lang is fine, but I kind of wish that, maybe if it had, like, let's say if you had Norm MacDonald and Chris Farley, like, because you could kind of see in a couple of scenes where they're talking, I'm like, man, I kind of wish, there's this part of me that wishes that it was Norm MacDonald and Chris Farley instead of Norm MacDonald and Artie Lang. Like I said, Artie Lang doesn't do a bad job. He's fine. But, what if it was Norm MacDonald and Chris Farley? I think that really would have been good. But it was cool to see Chris Farley in here, share a little screen time with Norm. And he has some funny moments. But again, the cast is really good here. Again, this is more of a showcase for Norm MacDonald. And Artie Lang is good. Christopher McDonald, which I almost forgot to mention, but, he's okay here. Around this time, Christopher MacDonald was playing like, kind of these villain types, kind of like the bad guy in certain comedies, whether it be Happy Gilmore, Flubber, which he did a year before, this movie here. So, yeah, Christopher MacDonald was on a bad guy role around this time, just kind of playing, schmucks in these comedies. But Christopher MacDonald's fine. I mean, there's not too much to his character other than he's like a rich guy, and Norm MacDonald wants to get back at him and all this stuff, but it's cool to see him in there. And the thing about this film here, it is very like, filled with gags. It's not the smartest comedy. It's very much turn off your brain type of comedy. And it's fun stuff. I mean, there's some really fun scenes here, in the film, for example, where the police, beat up the frat boys, that was fun. You got the scene where, they're filming the commercial at the car dealership, and, there's these dead hookers in the trunks, which they're not dead, but, they're kind of like phony hookers, pretending to be dead in these trunks, And Norm's like, you got a lot of dead hookers here, and I can't do a Norm MacDonald, but, I try. And, they're stinking up houses with rotten fish, and you got this. One of my favorite scenes is when they're in the prison, and, Norm and Artie Lang, and Artie Lang is like, you know what happens here, right? And he's, describing to Norm what happens in prisons, and, Norm's like, oh, that would never happen. There's no way. And then like a scene later, you can see him like, he walks into the front of the camera and he's buttoning up his pants and all that stuff. And basically, he got raped and, taken advantage of, and, which you don't see, but he makes a joke about, it's ridiculous. You fellas got a lot of growing up to do. What hurts the most? The lack of respect. Wait, the other thing hurts the most, but the lack of respect. It's ridiculous. Now, again, I can't do a Norm, but, the way he plays that scene, it's funny. And again, that's Norm's humor. So there is a lot of like fun scenes in here. It's kind of like silly fun humor, where, again, it's not the smartest comedy. It's not the most, cerebral comedy, if you want to say, but again, it's like silly fun, humor, a lot of gags in here, because for me, I think that's what Bob Saget, that's his type of humor, because, at this time here, he was more remembered from, being this wholesome character on Full House, and, he was the host of America's Funniest Home Videos, which I remember him more from that. Like Full House back in the day, I remember Full House, but I watched more of America's Funniest Home Videos, and he had this kind of, squeaky clean image, but also he would, he was known for doing raunchy stuff and, raunchy stand-up and comedy, and like, directing this movie here, which I think he went on to direct like other stuff, like Farce of the Penguins, which I haven't seen, but I've heard it's not too good. But, Bob Saget, I would say, does a decent job here directing. Yeah, I kind of wish and wonder, because, again, Norm didn't really get to star in many movies. I wonder if maybe if you had a different director here, like if you want to keep Norm MacDonald, like keep Norm MacDonald here. And if you want to keep Artie Lang, fine, but maybe you could have had Chris Farley play that part. But I wonder if with a different director, could this have been much more? Could have, if, which I know in real life, Bob Saget and Norm MacDonald were friends. And you could tell, that they were really good friends here. And you can tell that with this film here that everybody's having a good time, making the film. But I kind of wonder, there's this little part of me that, while Bob Saget does a decent job directing, and, with some of the bits of humor, what if you had another, comedic director that, can really, I don't know what kind of wording, maybe just, maybe, I don't know what I'm trying to say here or describe, but if you had a different, comedic director that can really take it up a notch with Norm, or, if you want to keep, like, let's say you could have the same plot, but maybe less gaggy, like less gags, more, it's more about the punchline, or more about maybe smartening up the script, or what have you. Like if you have Norm MacDonald and Chris Farley, and if it was directed by, I'm trying to think of like a comedy director. Maybe at this time you could have had like a Peter Siegel who directed Tommy Boy, or because again, I really enjoyed the plot here. The plot of these revenge specialists, these revenge for hire people, that do these things to people and they're getting paid to do it. So I like the idea of the story, the plot. But I don't know, maybe I'm just kind of spitballing here, but out of 5 stars, I'm going to give Dirty Work 3.5 stars. But that's it for now. Thank you for watching, and have a good day.